Okay, it's December 22nd, 2023, and what I'm going to do here is just do a quick demo of a few concepts that songwriters and producers use in creating songs. And this is definitely not for people that already know this stuff. This is for somebody that has absolutely no idea how music is created nowadays. And this isn't going to cover every single method, but it's going to cover a couple key things that are very common today. I'm using Ableton Live, but there's a dozen different programs someone could use to do this. And we're going to start off with a reference track. Now, often we want something that is going to set the tempo, is going to set the general groove, and maybe we are starting on our own. Maybe we don't have a drummer handy, and there might be just an idea we want to get out. And so one easy way to start working on an idea is to use a drum loop. And in this case, we're going to use a drum loop from a collection of country music loops. And these are what are known as royalty-free. Basically, a band went into a studio. They recorded a bunch of generic tracks on a number of different instruments. And somebody chopped up those audio files and made them available. Usually you pay anywhere between $20 and $200, I guess, for some of these really sophisticated libraries. But the idea is that work has already been done, and they're giving that to you for that price, and it's royalty free. Whether you use that in an actual released song or not is up to you. And in many cases, people are doing that, and you wouldn't even know the difference. So as an example here, we have this drum loop. Okay. So this is a real drum kit. Somebody recorded this real drum kit in a studio, and they probably recorded it to a click track to get really tight timing. And now we've got that. I'm just going to leave this at 120 beats per minute. And maybe that's giving me the rhythm I want. Maybe it's not quite what I want, but it gets me started, it keeps me in time. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use a MIDI controller to enter in notes on the piano. Now I'm just starting with a piano. We could use any sound later on. This next concept I want to introduce is that the notes I'm playing, okay, in this context, are completely separate from the sound that you're hearing. Later on, we can turn this into an organ, can turn this into a glockenspiel, all kinds of different sounds, synthesizers. And think of this as data, and we've got an on and off message, and I've got some velocity control in there, and there's some other controls that we can talk about on the MIDI side, but that's all we need for now. So we're going to go back to my Ableton view, and I'm going to just play something, a simple CFG progression. I'm not a very good piano player, and that'll be evident in a moment, but we just want to capture a very simple progression here. And so I'm going to go ahead and start recording. Okay, so I've got my first progression. So I just introduced a term. Chord progression is a set of presentation of values, in this case MIDI. I'm using a chord that is made up of 3 notes primarily, and I added a bass note here, 2 bass notes. So I've got C, E, and G in this chord, and then I go to F and I go to G. Now this is where the musical understanding comes into play, but there's also mathematics behind this. And if you're approaching music from a mathematical perspective, this could all be broken down by math, or it could be broken down by how this makes us feel. Right now, this is in a major key, and it's kind of got a happy feel to it. Okay, so now I've got my little maybe a beginning of a song here. We're not going to write a whole song. I just wanted to demonstrate a few things here with this clip. So right now, what we're looking at is the piano roll view, named after the old-time pianos where you'd put in a roll of paper with maybe holes poked in it, and it would actually go through and act as a program for that piano to play certain notes. This is the same concept here. And we can see here the notes are numbered. So this chord here is made up of C1, C2, C3, and we've got E3 and G3. Yep. And we can also see here that I've got another piece of data here down below. This is the velocity. So this is how hard I hit these keys. And you can see that throughout this little performance, it's completely different from each section as we go on, because I'm a human playing this. There are other ways to add velocity. You could actually add this by randomizing it. I could go through here and make this all one velocity if I wanted to make it really boring. The other thing I can do here is I can see that I have some notes that are bad. Okay, so I messed up a few notes here. And what I'll do here is I'm going to go in and correct that. So this is one of the big benefits of using a program like this that, oops, sorry, go back here. And lets me pull out some notes. So I could see here's a couple notes I didn't intend to hit. I'm going to pull those out. And let's see if I've got anything else that's funky. No, nothing else funky. And you could also add notes. So let's say I wanted to add a really high C note to this chord here and make that sustained here. And maybe I want to add another C note here too. And maybe I want to make this bigger so I can see what I'm doing. And I've got this C note here. Now, this is the data entry method of adding notes, okay? If you play an instrument, it's very unlikely you're going to get very much joy out of entering notes like this, but it is one way to do that. And now we can play that first chord here back. We hear that high note up there, and that note actually stays there for the next chord. Okay. So I know that these chords go together because I've been doing music for over 30 years now, I guess. And I play multiple instruments. I play primarily guitar. I play bass. So if I wanted to put a bass line to this, I might have an idea of what to do with that because I play that instrument. If I don't play that instrument, then I'm going to be maybe wanting a computer to help me put a bass line in, and there are ways to do that. I may also want to add some variety to this using the same exact performance. So I'm actually going to duplicate this performance, and we're going to change the color of this one so that we can tell that it's a different thing. And now I'm going to show what I mentioned earlier, that we can change the sound for this to be anything we want. And so I'm going to go up to my melodic strings. Okay, I've got some strings, so we'll see how this works. So now we've still got our first track. I'm going to put that a little bit in the left channel, and I'm going to put the strings a little bit in the right channel. And let's just play it back quick. Okay. Now, the thing with these strings is they're probably going to have a different feel to them, and that piano performance that I gave it is not necessarily appropriate for the strings. So I might want to do something called quantize these notes to make them a little bit more tight and up against the beat here. So this is just one strategy to change this a little bit automatically. And when I quantize something, I'm quantizing the rhythm. I'm taking the rhythm of this and I'm locking it in to a specified value. So right now, I think I've got this down to the resolution of an eighth note, and I want everything to kind of lock into an eighth note. If I had it set a little bit tighter, it would lock it into a 16th note. And that just means that it's going to prevent it from being too off the beat or too wishy-washy as we play this forward. So let's just see how this works here. So now the strings are all playing on the beat a lot tighter. So you can think of that as everybody's bow is going in the same direction at the same time with the same amount of same tightness to the rhythm. So there we saw how I can take that same performance, turn it into a completely different instrument. And we're going to do one more copy of this. And we're going to, again, we'll change the color so that we know we're working with something different. And we're going to change the sound. We're going to put a xylophone sound on this. And again, the method I'm using to do this is specific to Ableton, but you do this pretty much in any kind of DAW. There are tools to do this. What I want to do with this now is I want to add an arpeggio to this performance. And what that's going to do is it's going to take each of these chords and it's going to add a rhythmic characteristic to them and also break up the chords a little bit as they're performed. And I'm going to do that with a MIDI plugin. And that plugin is going to probably just be, we'll do one of these very simple ones here. And let me just solo this track so we can hear what this is going to do real quick. So it's adding a little bit of a more melodic character to things. Okay. So it's breaking up those chords. It's keeping all the notes in that chord, but now it's starting to sound a little bit like a melody. And now if we add that to everything. Okay. All right, so we've created a chord progression. We've done that against a drum track for rhythm, and we've added some enhancements. We've added some different instruments, and now maybe I want to experiment with a what we would call a top line or a melodic line on top of this entire thing. And this is where really the creativity of the human typically comes in. There are tools that will help you create a top line by using a plugin or some sort of tool without any artificial intelligence. But I'm going to do something just on the fly myself without any additional support. So let me just get a sound that I like to do that. And maybe we'll try this. No, we don't want a brass hit. Let's try this kalimba. And let's just play with that. Okay. So it's a little similar to that other plucky sound, but let's try it anyway. I'm going to just do this on the fly. We'll see what happens. Okay, so right away, I need to be able to hear this more. So I'm going to bring these levels down. And let's just try it. So obviously I'm making mistakes. I'm able to correct them very easily. Okay, so pretty terrible. But let's take this sound here, maybe change this sound a little bit. And I'm going to go try to find another instrument. Let's try to find a synthy sound, maybe an analog lead sound, and hopefully nothing too crazy, but let's see here. Sweet lead. Let's see how sweet it is. So I'm having a lot of trouble with this first part, huh? So let's go back up here. That's because I got an A sharp in here. Okay, let's get rid of that. So obviously, as a human, I can listen to that and comparing against my past experience and listening to lots of different styles of music, I can say, well, something doesn't sound quite right about that. And I can address it and kind of fix it. So we're going to do one last step on this experiment, and we're going to come up with another tool here for MIDI effects, and we're going to go to get out of scales and go to random. Okay. And so here are some different approaches to creating things, and these have sort of abstract names. And we're actually going to use this same exact performance here from down here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the top line only. So let's change this color so that we know we're using this one. And I'm going to go in here, and I'm only going to use the very top line. Now we're just going to be up around here, around this G and this C. But I also, I'm running this through a pentatonic scale adjuster, and I'm also running it through a randomizer, which is going to, regardless of what note is being played, create another note. And let's actually put that before the scale adjuster. So this note, regardless of what note's getting played, is going to get randomized. Then it's going to go through the scale adjuster. Then it's going to go through our sound maker. So let's see what we get. Okay, doesn't sound too interesting. Let's try this on the other side here, and up the chants here. There we go. So it's kind of hopping around and improvising a little bit on its own. And maybe I'll let this take 2 octaves. Okay. So to summarize a little bit here, what I've done is I've really just used 3 basic chords, C, F, and G, to create a very short little piece of music with a randomized melody performed against a drum loop. And these are some of the basic tools and techniques that can be used in creating music today. The more interesting thing that I want to explore, and I'll be exploring this in several presentations later this year, has to do with how AI is adjusting some of these parameters for us, how AI is augmenting how we interact with our DAWs and some of the tools that are out there and they're available. And I'm going to reserve my judgment on those for those later discussions. One thing to note here is that because I have some musical background, I understand how to use these parameters that are provided to us in these programs. So the scale adjuster, the randomizer, what this means for scale here, how to use this piano roll, the fact that this represents a keyboard on the left-hand side, what these notes are. And even though I'm not a keyboard player, with a little bit of music theory, I can understand how to put stuff together here. What the AI programs tend to do is put a lot of that stuff under the hood, and some of them are even creating more of a conversational aspect to creating music, where you would say, in this case, I would say, write me an 8-bar progression in C with piano and synthesizer, and I, could tell it that. I could come back and tweak it from there. There's a couple programs that are doing that. My question for the moment, and this can't be answered right now, is do I want to have a conversation with my computer to create music? I personally do not, at least not right now. I think it's fun and I think it's novel, but typically when I come to a creative process, I'm coming with an idea already, and because of my background and experience, I know how to express that. But not everybody has that experience, and not everybody has the time, perhaps. I don't know if some of these tools are going to save us time. The jury's out on that. We'll have to see. But I wanted to show some basics of how things work today, and perhaps another 10 years this video would be completely different. So it would be interesting to see.